All right, so let's jump right in. Today we're taking a deep dive into Lam Research and their latest earnings call.
Yeah, just had their Q1 2024 report come out.
Exactly. And for anyone who doesn't know Lam Research, they're one of the major players in the world of chip manufacturing equipment.
Yeah, the stuff that makes the stuff we all use.
Exactly. And their earnings calls, they always offer like this really fascinating glimpse into what's happening behind the scenes in the tech world.
It's kind of a sneak peek at the future of tech, you know?
Absolutely. So right off the bat, Lam's CEO, they really hammered home this idea that AI is like the main driving force behind their business right now.
AI is everywhere right now, it seems like.
It really does feel that way, but I have to admit, I don't totally get why AI needs these like insanely powerful chips. Can you break that down for us?
So think of it this way, like traditional computing, it's like you're following a recipe step by step.
Okay, I can see that.
But AI, it's more about teaching a computer to learn and adapt on its own.
Like it has to think for itself in a way.
Exactly. And that requires processing huge amounts of data and making super complex calculations way beyond what those traditional chips can handle.
So it's not just about speed, it's a whole different way of thinking for the computer.
Exactly. And this is where companies like Lam come in. They're building the machines that can actually produce those AI-capable chips.
So they're like the unsung heroes powering this whole AI revolution.
In a way, yeah. They're providing the tools that are making it all possible.
It makes a lot more sense now why they're seeing so much growth. And they specifically called out high bandwidth memory and advanced packaging as key areas, right?
Absolutely. High bandwidth memory, or HBM.
Yeah.
It's like giving the AI a much wider pipeline to access all that data.
So instead of like drinking through a straw, it can drink from a fire hose.
Yeah, a really powerful fire hose. And then you've got advanced packaging, which is all about fitting more power into smaller and smaller spaces.
So like cramming a supercomputer into something the size of my phone.
Pretty much. And it's not just about making things smaller. It's about connecting all these different chips together really efficiently so they can work together like a well-oiled machine.
So faster processing, more efficient data flow. It's clear that AI is really pushing the boundaries of what chips can do. But what about the like good old-fashioned memory chips? Are those still relevant in this AI-powered world?
Definitely NAND memory, the kind that stores your photos and videos and all that. It's been in a bit of a slump lately, yeah, but Lam's predicting a huge comeback in 2025. And it's not just about making more of those chips, it's about making them way, way better.
So what does that mean for like the average person who's always running out of storage space?
Well, imagine being able to fit your entire photo library, every movie you've ever downloaded, tons of games, all on a chip the size of your fingernail.
Wait, seriously? That's insane. How is that even possible?
They mentioned something about a material transition going on.
Oh yeah, they're shifting from tungsten to molybdenum in the manufacturing process, right?
Right, it's a little bit technical, but basically, molybdenum allows them to create these super dense memory chips that can hold way more information in the same amount of space.
That's mind-blowing. So faster, more efficient, and smaller, I can already see my phone's battery life rejoicing. But with all this talk about growth and innovation, is there anything that could potentially throw a wrench in Lam's plans?
Well, there's one big challenge on the horizon that we can't ignore.
Let me guess. You're talking about China.
You got it.
It seems like every conversation about tech eventually circles back to the global landscape and all those geopolitical tensions.
It's hard to avoid. And when Lam themselves are predicting a decline in their China revenue, it's definitely something we need to pay attention to.
Okay, so let's dig into that because I'm really curious to see how these global dynamics are playing out, especially with all the talk about export restrictions and China's push to build their own domestic chip industry.
Yeah, it's a complex situation for sure.
So are those export restrictions and everything actually starting to have a real impact?
Well, Lam didn't exactly sugarcoat it. They said straight up that they expect their revenue from China to shrink, both as a percentage of their total business and in actual dollar amounts.
So it's a pretty significant hit.
It is. But here's the thing. They also emphasize that China is still a major market for them.
So they're not like packing up and leaving.
No, not at all. It's more like a balancing act. You know, trying to navigate all those geopolitical headwinds while still doing business in a key market.
It sounds tricky. But even with all that going on, Lam seems pretty optimistic about the future. They're investing heavily in some pretty mind-blowing advancements in chip technology.
Oh yeah, they're not holding back. Remember those gate-all-around transistors we mentioned earlier?
Vaguely refresh my memory.
Okay, so basically a transistor is like a gate that controls the flow of electrons in a chip.
Got it.
And current transistors, they have one gate. But these new gate-all-around transistors, they have gates on all sides.
So more gates equals more control.
Exactly. It's like upgrading from a one-lane road to a massive multi-lane highway for those electrons.
Okay, so what does that actually mean for the user? Like, what are the real-world benefits?
Faster processing speeds, lower power consumption, and even smaller chips. It's a win-win-win.
Sign me up. And that's just one of the things they're working on. They also mentioned backside power distribution, which sounds pretty radical.
It is. It's like
Ex
they're flipping the script on how chips are powered. Traditionally, power is delivered to the chip from the top.
Okay, makes sense.
But with backside power delivery, they're bringing the power in from the bottom.
So what's the advantage of doing it that way?
It frees up space on the top of the chip for more transistors, so you can pack even more power into the same area.
So it's like they're constantly finding new ways to squeeze more performance and efficiency into these tiny little chips. It's honestly pretty amazing. But all this innovation, it can't be cheap. How are they managing financially while investing in all this futuristic tech?
Well, their financials actually look really strong. 5 consecutive quarters of revenue growth, beating profitability expectations, strong free cash flow. It seems like they're managing their resources pretty strategically.
And they even announced a dividend increase and a share buyback program.
Exactly. So they're keeping their investors happy
Yeah,
while still pushing the envelope on what's possible in the world of chip technology.
it's impressive. But let's zoom out a bit. All these financial figures and all these technological advancements, what does it actually mean for the average person?
That's the key question, right?
Yeah.
How does this stuff translate into tangible benefits for someone who just wants a better phone or a faster computer?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, that's what most people care about.
Right. So for starters, all these advancements in chip technology, they're going to lead to devices that are faster, more energy efficient, and more compact than ever before.
So longer battery life, faster app loading, maybe even foldable phones that actually work as promised.
Exactly. But it goes way beyond our personal devices. Think about the impact on fields like healthcare.
Oh yeah, I've heard about AI-powered chips being used for things like medical diagnosis and treatment.
And it's just getting started. Transportation is another huge area, with self-driving cars becoming a reality, thanks in part to those powerful chips that Lam is helping to create.
It's mind-blowing to think about the ripple effects of all this innovation. But we also can't forget about what we call the trailing edge.
You mean those older chips that are still crucial for so many industries?
Exactly. They may not be flashy, but they keep the world running.
And Lam's success, even with their focus on the future, it shows that there's still a huge demand for those older chips.
So they're not just betting on the cutting edge, they're covering all their bases.
Exactly. And that puts them in a really strong position. But let's not forget about the elephant in the room, that shifting global landscape, and especially the evolving role of China. That adds a whole other layer of complexity to the story.
Definitely. Let's zoom in on those regional dynamics. Lam actually gave some specific numbers about their revenue breakdown by region, and it's clear that China is still a major player, even if things are changing.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah, so China was their biggest market last quarter, right?
It was 37% of their total revenue. That's pretty substantial.
It is, but it actually dipped a bit from the previous quarter, which makes me wonder, with all these export restrictions and China trying to ramp up their own chip-making capabilities, what's the long-term outlook there?
It's hard to say for sure. But even if China's role shifts a bit, they're not the only game in town. Lam's second biggest market was Korea.
Oh, right. Korea's huge in the memory chip business.
They are. And that market held steady for Lam at about 18% of their revenue.
So not as big as China, but still a significant chunk of their business.
Definitely. And it shows how important it is for Lam to have a diverse customer base.
Yeah.
Not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Speaking of diversification, they also mentioned Taiwan and the U.S. as key markets, but they didn't give any specific numbers.
Yeah, but it's safe to say those regions are also playing a big role in Lam's growth. Taiwan's got that massive foundry industry, and the U.S. is really pushing hard to boost domestic chip production.
It's fascinating to see how these regional dynamics are unfolding, especially with all the talk about reshoring and building more resilient supply chains.
It feels like the whole global landscape is in flux right now.
It really does. But Lam seems to be navigating it all pretty well. They're diversifying their revenue streams, capitalizing on growth opportunities wherever they pop up, and making some pretty smart bets on the technologies that will shape the future.
They're definitely a company to watch. But let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. All this talk about chips and revenue and geopolitics, what does it actually mean for the average person out there?
Yeah, that's the key question. Why should someone who's not a tech investor or a chip engineer care about any of this?
Well, think about it this way. Chips are the fundamental building blocks of our modern world. They're in everything. Our phones, our cars, our appliances, even our medical devices.
I never really thought about it like that.
And as those chips get more powerful and more efficient, it unlocks a whole world of possibilities.
So it's not just about having a faster phone or a cooler gadget. It's about advancements in healthcare, transportation, communication, pretty much every aspect of our lives.
Exactly. AI-powered chips are driving breakthroughs in medical diagnosis, personalized medicine drug discovery,
Yeah.
you name it.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects of all this innovation. These tiny little chips that are often smaller than a fingernail, they're having a massive impact on the world.
They really are. And Lam Research, with their focus on innovation and their ability to navigate these complex global dynamics, they're right at the heart of it all.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Lamb research, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think it's this. The chip industry is evolving at an incredible pace, and it's shaping the future in ways that we can only begin to imagine. And as we move forward, it's important to ask ourselves some big questions. How do we ensure that these advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few? How do we manage the ethical implications of increasingly powerful AI? And how do we shape this technology in a way that truly serves humanity?
Those are some profound questions, and questions that we'll continue to explore here on the show. But for now, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Lamb research and the future of chip technology.